Accountants, imagine this scenario, if you will. A prospective business owner comes to you and you guide them through a conversation, you understand what their needs are, and then you get to the end of that conversation and it's time to present to them your services and how you can help them. And that prospective business owner really likes what they've heard so far. And what you do is you say, hey, I'd like you to choose between one of these three packages. And the business owner, who knows virtually nothing about accounting or tax, has come to you specifically for help in these domains, is now wondering, I don't even know what to pick. So I guess I'll pick this one. I think this one's the best one for me. And unfortunately, this is where a lot of opportunities die, because what you don't want to do when you are selling a professional service is essentially go, pick. Did you pick the right one? I don't know. Did you? I hope you did. Did you take my recommendation? And the truth is you've injected complexity into your own sales process. And if there's one quote that you want to remember when it comes to successfully selling professional services, it is that a confused mind is an indecisive mind. And to be honest, we want people to make informed and well-educated decisions, but we also want them to see and respect you as an advisor. And what you do is you've built up this tremendous respect throughout the call. And then at the end of the call, you completely collapse it by passing the responsibility of decision-making for what's best for the client over to them. And in reality, they have no idea what is best for them. That's why they're coming to you. That's why they're talking to you. Because if they knew what was best for them, they would probably either just do it or tell you what they need. And that is 99% of the time not the case. So here's a much better way to go about this. And what I found is a lot of accounting firm owners spend a lot of money and a crazy amount of time developing all these packages, right? They're like, oh, I got to develop these packages. And there's something unique about the technician when they get into the realm of the creative, the analytical mind that goes into the creation of packages, which is you will stay in the development mode for almost an eternity. Like a lot of people develop, and then they never bring them to their existing clients. And they do what I just described for new clients, where they introduce complexity, all the options, and then they wonder why people aren't buying. And they go, the problem is the packages. They got to change the way and then they go back into remaking packages if they ever got out of making them in the first place, right? So then they're back in strategy, and then that's where things tend to stay. And then they never actually achieve the whole purpose of what packages is for. Let's just be blunt. Why create packages in the first place? So there's really one reason you do it. You're looking to productize your service delivery. You want to achieve more efficiency when you offer packages. That's the only reason people do it. And it's a good reason. I just want to, I'm on board with it. I'm not on board with the way it's being presented and sold, but I am on board with packages in general. So here's another reason why introducing all packages at the end of a presentation is generally a bad idea, or a conversation with a client. And anyone who's done this will say that this happens quite frequently, which is the clients will see option, the most expensive package with all the things, and then they'll see the lowest package with the least things and the lowest price. And then they'll say, but what about, well, I kind of really want that from this package in this package. So how does that change things? And so what ends up happening is you either have to make a concession and a change, which means you've now created a new package to accommodate the needs of this client, or you say no and you run the risk of alienating the client, or you have to convince them why they need all of the other things in the higher tier package, but they want to pay the lower price but want the more premium thing from the higher package into the smaller one. So again, this is what I mean when I say complexity. As soon as you get into the actual practical implementation and what goes into this, it's not nearly as romanticized as the people who tell you to do it works out. They don't really have practical experience doing it. So what's the better option, or what's the better alternative? Quite frankly, it's pretty simple. It's really the same exact lead up to the introduction of the packages, but there is a much better way to do it. So you have one of two options that works really well. You either do what we primarily recommend for our clients, which is you offer a fixed price, smaller service that effectively gives you a much better understanding of the complexities and nuances of the business. So you're basically doing pay to do it. It's a pay diagnostic of the accounting systems of the business, of the tax, take a look at the old tax returns, all the things that you guys review their chart of accounts, all those things that you normally do for free for some reason. You get paid to do them, and then this eliminates scope creep essentially. Exactly what the business needs, except you get paid for it, so the client's more invested in the actual process. They don't ghost you. They don't not send you QuickBooks Online access. They do all the things that they're actually supposed to do because they paid for the right to do it. So that's a separate sales process. But at the end of that process, once they go through that analysis and you present the findings to them, you slot them into the appropriate package. You just tell them this is the best thing for you. And so they don't even know gold, silver, bronze. You're not selling to jewelers, by the way, right? Like there's no need to even name them those things. You're like, this is the perfect service model for your needs based on our analysis. That's the strength and position of an advisor. Now, if you don't want to do the initial analysis and eliminate scope creep, and you want to kind of just guess at profitability and what they would truly need, not just based on a conversation, but based on a hands-on analysis, if you were trying to skip that step, you're welcome to. But the end result would still be the same, as you essentially just say, based on what you've told me, this would be exactly what would be appropriate for your needs. And so rather than giving them optionality, you own the position of the advisor and you say, this is the thing that is the best for you. Now you might be saying, well, how do I know what's the best for them? And I'd say, well, you clearly developed the top tier package with a very specific use case and avatar in mind. You don't just put everyone in your top package, obviously, but that has to be said. You don't do that unless you're only catering exclusively to them, in which case you are only selling this one thing, which is fine. But you don't take all the buyers and put them in the most expensive thing. You're probably taking like 10 to 15% of them because you develop that for a premium buyer. And then the majority of them probably fit in the middle. And then you probably have a smaller startup, sub 500K per year, sub 250K per year option that is relatively light in services, but keeps them as a part of your ecosystem so that they can move up and up throughout their journey in their business. And so again, the key here is regardless of, you should know where they belong based on the way that they answered your questions. And so then you just tell them you belong in tier 2. You don't even say tier 2, right? Say, this is the perfect service model for you. It includes everything that you've just discussed with me. The price is X dollars per month moving forward. And it's Y dollars to take care of all the outstanding things that you've already covered with me. We just essentially take the monthly amount and apply it by the months that are outstanding. And so your total amount for the first month of service is Y plus X. What type of card would you like to use to get started? Now, this is the last thing I want to end on, because there is an entire cottage industry of softwares that have sprung up that I will just say have probably cost accountants more money than almost anything, because it has essentially shifted the decision-making process away from a conversation with you as the advisor. And the first step in being an advisor is having a hard conversation. If you're just having layup conversations, you're not actually an advisor, just to be clear. And honestly, usually the starting block for almost every hard conversation is a conversation about money. And the first conversation about meaningful exchange of money is with you. It's with you and your firm. And so you want to actually embrace that conversation. You don't want to shirk the responsibility of it and pass it off to an email proposal template, get to you later, plug in information into some software that does my sales pricing thing for me. Just say it then and there, because here's the other, the reason I say it costs so much money. And I know a lot of people will flame me and say, I love my proposal tool. Sure, it has some value. But here's the problem. People spend a lot of time creating proposals and entering information for prospects that were never going to buy in the first place. They were never going to buy. And the same people who buy through the proposal software are the same people who would buy if you just asked them to buy on the phone. So you can almost just eliminate all of the additional time and risk associated with going through that process by just getting a little bit more comfortable with the sales dialogue. And I say this as someone who was extremely uncomfortable with sales, both when I started my firm, ran my firm, really uncomfortable. But I know one of my key advantages in being able to grow it was getting comfortable with the sales process. A lot of people will buy accounting and tax services simply because you ask them to buy. And here's the great part about it is if they don't want to buy, there may be something that's wrong with the package, right? You don't get to collect the actual feedback for why they wouldn't buy unless you ask them. And if you don't ask for the business, you don't truly understand what's stopping them from wanting to move forward with you. So if everything sounds good and you're like, I'll email you a proposal, and they're like, that sounds good. And they're like, click, well, we're not doing that because you don't even know why. You have no idea why. So again, I just want to summarize this by saying, if you offer packages, that's great. Taking the time to productize your services is a fantastic thing, truly. But what you don't want to do is inject complexity into your own sales process. You don't want to waste time creating proposals or doing things for people who weren't going to buy in the first place. And you don't want to pass the power of the advisor to the prospect who does not even understand what the best thing is for them. Because let's just walk that to its logical ends. And you'll see stuff like this on Twitter or really any social media platform. And it's a very interesting example in like human psychology. I'm really just like shirking ownership, it's like blaming clients, which is into their lowest package. And the client now, not prospect, but the client ended up being disgruntled or unhappy because they wanted advisory services, which wasn't included in the lowest package. And the person who's writing this puff my chest out piece is blaming the client for being cheap and picking the lower package. Maybe, but if in the process of the conversation, it was clear they wanted hands-on advisory service. It was clear. And you gave them the option to pick something that didn't include that, but they had a conversation with you where it felt like they were talking to an advisor. Of course they're disappointed. Of course they are. You might say, well, they didn't read the agreement properly, but they shouldn't have even had the chance to make that mistake. They probably would have happily paid the higher amount if it was the only option that was presented to them. Or they wouldn't have, in which case you avoided the whole problem to begin with. So long story short, if you take more ownership of your sales process, if you take more ownership of being an advisor by not providing irrelevant and erroneous options that inhibit the client's ability to get the results that you'd like them to get through your service model, you're going to have a much more profitable and healthy accounting firm and a much better relationship with your clients. So please, don't sell packages, but sell packages. Kind of, sort of. You get what I mean? I hope you get what I mean. Have packages available, but don't make them available, if you get what I mean. I think you get what I mean in the sense that it's like you have them in the back office. You're just not putting them on display. You're just saying, I know what the best thing is for you. And then you pick the package that's best for them and you make them aware of that package. So I hope that's clear. Anyway, thanks for checking this out. Remember, only you can create your dream firm, but we are here to help you every single step of the way. If you need help with package development, ironing out your sales process, or quite frankly, getting better leads that would ultimately want to invest in your incredibly valuable accounting, bookkeeping, or tax services, feel free to reach out and say hello, because we'd love to see if you qualify for an opportunity to work with us in our service model. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you all inside of the Dream Firms Network.